Too quiet to be normal, too distant to be ignored. Behind the stage lights and camera flashes, there is a silent story screaming to be understood. Jungkook, the golden maknae of BTS, is different now. But what is really going on? It's not a scandal. It's not drama. But there is something that feels missing. And this is the story you've never heard before. In the never-sleeping world of entertainment, where every second is measured by likes, trending topics, and sales figures, there was once a name that never failed to be at the center of attention: Jungkook. But now, something has changed. Not in a noticeable way. Not through big news or wild rumors. But through something far more unsettling: silence. It's not that he's disappeared. Jungkook is still there, at least physically. But those who know him, not as a superstar but as a human being, are beginning to sense that something is different. There are no spontaneous late-night live streams. No playful, laughter-filled posts. No fleeting, contagious smiles or little songs capturing warmth. All of that is silent. And in a world where Jungkook has always been a source of light, this silence feels like losing the sun in broad daylight. Jungkook isn't just an idol. He's someone who, since the age of 15, has borne the weight of millions of people's hopes. He grew up under the camera's glare, learned to mature in the public eye, and adapted not to be who he is, but who the world wants him to be. While children his age learn from their mistakes in private spaces, Jungkook learned on stage, with a microphone in hand and cameras capturing every movement. From an ordinary teenager to a symbol of perfection. From a shy young man to the golden maknae. And over time, we were all captivated by his performances, his voice, his dedication, his perseverance. But along that long journey, have we ever asked ourselves, who did he leave behind to become that perfect version of himself? Now, as he enters his mandatory military service, a break that should provide some breathing room, an odd atmosphere has emerged. Not calmness, but emptiness. Fans who saw him during his military leave described something that weighed heavily on the heart. A smile that didn't reach his eyes, a vacant gaze, a body present, but a soul that seemed to drift off somewhere else. As if he were thinking about something that couldn't be explained in words. Many wondered, is he okay? But the question, like an echo, went unanswered. Numerous theories circulated on social media. Some said he was experiencing burnout, exhausted from years of expectations and relentless work. Others believed his heart was broken by a love that couldn't be pursued under the shadow of fame. Others are convinced that Jungkook is asking himself, is this what I want? Do I still want to be on stage? And the saddest theory is that perhaps he just wants to live as an ordinary person, not as a brand. That maybe he just wants to stop being a public commodity and become Jungkook, not BTS's Jungkook. However, behind all the speculation, one thing is clear. There is a change. And that change is not a sign of decline, but transformation. Perhaps what we are witnessing is not destruction, but rebirth. Because before an artist creates their greatest work, they often need to go through a period of silence. A painful silence. A silence that makes them question who they are beyond everything they have built so far. We may feel lost, but perhaps, just perhaps, Jungkook is rediscovering his true self. As ARMY, we often celebrate moments filled with light. But are we also ready to accompany him in the darkness? Ready to love not just the shining version, but also the one who is broken? The one who is searching? We cannot force him to smile. We cannot demand his presence solely for our entertainment, but we can be a home, a place that is always open whenever he is ready to return. It's not about when he'll return to live performances. It's not about his next solo project. It's about giving him space to breathe, to rewrite himself, without pressure, without the spotlight forcing him. Because true love doesn't demand. It waits. And waiting in silence doesn't mean giving up, but the highest form of loyalty. Meanwhile, but time keeps moving forward, and in the silence of those days, one thing becomes increasingly clear. Perhaps this isn't just about him disappearing from the public eye, but also about us learning to love in his absence. We, who are accustomed to daily interactions, begin to experience a longing that cannot be soothed by fan cams or short stories. And that longing is not a weakness. It is proof that this relationship is not merely between an idol and a fan, but between soul and soul. Some of us may wonder, will he return as he was before? But the more honest question is, does he have to return as he was before? Because no one truly returns unchanged from the process of change. And to be honest, we too have changed alongside him. We no longer just love the person singing on stage, but also the soul behind the microphone. A fragile soul, a tired soul, one that might be asking, is he loved not for his achievements, but for who he truly is? And that's when we realize, maybe this isn't just about Jungkook searching for himself, but also about us learning to love without conditions. Imagine spending over a decade of your life trying to make everyone else happy, except yourself. Dancing and singing not because you want to, but because you have to. Smiling not because you're happy, but because you're expected to. In silence, perhaps Jungkook finally faces a mirror that doesn't show achievements or popularity, but existential questions. Who am I? Do I still want this? Or have I been living up to others' expectations all along? Perhaps that's why silence is his answer now. Because there's a wound that can't be explained, only felt. And that wound isn't about a single event, but the accumulation of years demanding perfection from a child who just wanted to sing. We often forget that behind the spotlight that makes us cheer, there are dark spaces that can only be traversed alone. And now, perhaps that's what Jungkook is going through. Not because he's giving up, but because he's gathering the courage to live more honestly. With himself, without a mask, without a role, without the pressure to be perfect. And when the time comes, when he returns not as Jungkook BTS, but as John Jungkook, a whole human being, that might be the greatest victory we can celebrate. Not because he's back on stage, but because he's back to himself. For that, let us stay here, but not to wait anxiously. We stay here to love in silence. To remind him that even though he is not on the screen, his heart still has a home in the millions of souls touched by his voice. Because sometimes, the greatest love does not shout. It is present in the faithful silence, in a simple prayer, in a song played on repeat not because of trends, but because that voice heals invisible wounds. And when the world hears his footsteps stepping back onto the stage, we won't see someone returning to the old world. We'll see someone who's weathered an inner storm and emerged not with bleeding wounds, but with a new light. A light not to satisfy expectations, but for himself. Because in the end, it's not about how many times Jungkook appears on screen, but about who he finds when no cameras are on. Jungkook, if you're reading this, or if a single breath of yours ever feels constricted by an invisible burden, know this one thing: we're still here. No matter if you choose silence, distance, or a path no longer aligned with what the world expects of you, we're still here. Because we don't love the star. We love your soul. And that love won't fade, even if you choose a quiet path. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with fellow armies. Because when love grows in silence, that's when a fandom becomes more than just spectators. It becomes a home for souls seeking to return.